Welcome to the Higher Self Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to help you unravel anything keeping you from a life of true abundance, joy, and happiness, which is your birthright. Each week, we'll bring in different guests specifically tailored to help you on your journey to discovering your higher self. Whether it's spirituality, business, finances, health, or relationships, there are no topics that are off limits. So get ready and enjoy this week's episode of The Higher Self. Welcome to this week's episode of The Higher Self. And I've got an interesting one for you this week. If you've ever wanted to talk about in an open fashion or learn or hear spoken about the wonderful thing that created you. That's right. That thing that creates human beings, sex. We're going to talk about it here. I have Alexa Bowditch with me.
You got it.
I got it right?
You got it.
Cool. Formerly Martinez.
Formerly Martinez.
You just got married.
Yep. About a year ago.
And let's start there. How was that going?
Marriage?
Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible. I did a lot of work in order to get to a place where I look at my husband now and I think of him as one of, if not the greatest achievement of my life. Like our relationship, the fact that we are together against all the things that we had stacked against us in our childhood and our upbringings, the individual upbringings, for us to be together and to have the relationship that we have now is incredible.
So let's go right into it. Right?
Sure.
We don't ever have these things planned, right?
Great.
I just want to flow, but I feel like this is an important thing for us to discuss because number one, what were the things that you had like stacked up against you? And then number two, when you say this relationship, what does that look like and feel like?
Sure. Well, caveat, I'm saying this as still, I don't know how long we have to be married in order for me not to be a newlywed.
Okay.
So I'm still in the newlywed phase. So we're together almost 5 years.
Got it. So for those cynicals, they're going to be saying, but you're just in the honeymoon stage.
And we don't have children yet. So we're working on that. So for anyone that's like, have some kids, we're working on it. And so just check back with me. I do understand that we've got some like really big life things to go through. Right. And then that will put our relationship, our relationship will consistently be put to the test.
Right.
And I feel super confident that we're going to get through it. But both of us don't shy away from the tough stuff. So both of us, as far as odds stacked against us, I grew up South Louisiana, and my mom is single mom military. She's retired Air Force now. And I grew up thinking and believing that being a single mom, the way that she functioned with me is that was what being a woman looked like, was being the provider, being the one that held it all together. And
I already like where this is going.
Yeah. And so to see that be strength and that be how we needed to function, those were the codes that I was given. And also, my mother has been married 5 times. So I have not been alive for all of them. 2 of them happened before I was born. And so just the volume of people, 3 of the marriages were with people who were underneath her in the military. So that worked in her unit. And so she was the boss. Whoa. And so,
This is good because this is an alpha woman who is protecting her heart, who will not let a man in, who probably doesn't know what it means to tap into her feminine energy, which caused you to see all of that.
Yeah.
Whoa, I'm loving this dynamic already.
Yeah. And I mean, she had her path.
Yeah.
She definitely had her path. And I like to use my mom as it's kind of a story of hope for some people too, is that she never gave up on love.
Beautiful.
So her most recent relationship and marriage is to my stepdad now, Ernie. And my whole family loves him. They've been together, I think 16 years, but they got together just before she turned 50. So she found, she uses the phrase, I had to kiss a lot of frogs before she found her prince. And they are adorable together. And so I want to just say, like, this was her story, and this is her, the path that she walked. And, they got together when I was maybe 16. So I had already had the childhood developments, the 0 to 7 or 0 to 12. I already knew men are not trustworthy, revolving door. They abandon their children, they leave. And I will always be the one that they're the project that I have to help. and I'm the one that's going to make the money and they're probably good for nothing. These are the things that I took in and put deep down, and, through life have realized how that plays out in my relationships. And Jordan my husband was similar, but a little bit different. His parents also split around the same age that mine did, 3. And when they split, he has grandparents that were the pastors of a charismatic Christian evangelist church. I grew up Catholic, and his mom functioning alcoholic. Split in 2 different locations. His attachment figure was his brother. And so, for him, we have the exact opposite, like perfect puzzle pieces for each other's trauma, where I learned to be alone a lot. I was left alone a lot as a kid. I'm the youngest / only, because my sister and I are so far apart in age. And so I just spent a lot of time alone. I got to really be comfortable with myself, and spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house. So I was just lonely. I was like a lonely little kind of moody kid. And he learned that in order to be taken care of, because his mom worked a lot and she drank a lot and she was away from home a lot, and that if he needed to survive, he needed to be the agreeable chameleon little kid that other families would take in and feed and help and, in some ways feel sorry for and take care of when his mom was not around. And so, our traumas, and when we're triggered, we do the perfect set of things that just really grind the other person's gears. But I realize he's my teacher, and he's my sacred mirror, which is a fancy word. Yeah, he's my medicine, the person who shows me the blind spots, which is cool to say in this fun, lighthearted podcast. But like when we're actually in it, and that's,
I know.
So that's what I mean, like the odds were stacked against, I very well could have recreated a lot of what I saw.
For sure.
Growing up, and for him too.
For sure.
Because both his parents, I think mom married 4 times. So we just got a lot. And our really close community, which I think helps us function so well in our relationship, is we have 12 people, 6 couples that we're super tight with as far as friendships go. And we're the only 2 out of the 12 that our parents are not still together. Our biological parents are not together. So I just look at how we even function in community. We've had to try really hard to not do things the way that your parents did, so that we could attract more of what we really did want, more of what we knew was available out there in the world.
Yeah. And I got so much to say about this. The first thing that comes to mind is, if you're out there listening, this is consciousness. This is consciousness. Consciousness is being able to be aware, right? To be aware that you were, as a result of your journey, which, by the way, is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with your mom's journey. There's nothing wrong with my journey. It's all our journeys. And we are here, our soul is here to experience this journey, to get us to the point where we get to decide what it is that we want to do about it. Right? It's either A, we're going to follow that path and be a victim to that path and, live in poor me, right? Or B, we're going to one day wake up and go, hang on a second. There's another type of life out there available for me, right? And what do I get to learn from everything that happened to me, so that then I can go ahead and heal some of that and choose a different path? And it's so beautiful to me that both of you decided to do that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he's from California. Well, he was in California, and I'm from New Orleans. And so how we even got together just didn't really, we look back on it and we're like, this doesn't make sense how this happened. Like, we're only together because of mutual friends on Facebook.
Got it.
You know what I mean? So when people come to me and, my community online and stuff, and they're like, there's no great men out there, and, where are the ladies and all this, I'm like, whoa, hang on. You're full of shit. Because when it's the right person and they find you and you're a magnet for the things, you do what is required in order to be a magnet for the things that you desire and you want. And that's really, truly in alignment with, what's for you. You're in alignment with it. It's going to find you. And I always tell the women too that come to me and they're like, I don't know, the guy I'm dating, he's hot and cold and sex and whatever. I'm like, no, the man that wants you, will move everything in his life for you.
That's right.
and they will show up.
That's right.
And I watched that with Jordan, and it was the most like terrifying and incredible experience because I had never had anyone do that. For me, it was usually me sacrificing, but sacrificing so that I could eventually create a dynamic and an environment that left me on a pedestal controlling everything.
Wow.
Yeah. So, to be in a marriage now with my husband, which, I the way that we talk about it, not to get political or anything, but I'm a sex coach, but some of our, core principles or morals of values might be looked at as a little bit conservative in a lot of sense, like how I treat him as my husband and the role that he has. I respect decision-making. Like on paper, I have a lot of things that I desire for the role of my husband, but how I act out is in a lot of ways a direct contradiction to that. So how do I surrender while simultaneously being his muse so that his decisions, I can trust him, and so that the decisions that he makes for our family is directly considering me and I can surrender to what his choices are.
And how beautiful is it for you to have the space to be able to surrender?
Yeah.
And for him to be that man and in that masculine. Because I think, a lot of, it's interesting. I'll put up a video that says, the man should do this for you. Mm-hmm. And 75% of the women are like, yes, yes. And then there's 25%, like the ones that say no, it's never like a no. It's like there's like a viciousness to the no. Angry no.
I wish you had hobbies.
Yeah.
For those people. If you have that much time to put on the
because
I
always think to myself, like, you don't realize that even the energy that you're giving to me and to this post is proving that you're in your wounded, like masculine or pain body self.
Yes.
Where if you had peace, even if you didn't agree with it, you'd just be like, oh, that guy's a dick. And just like go to the next post.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally. I mean, people get angry and do different kinds of things on my post too, but more often than not, the way that I will share it, and it's all from the me perspective. This is what I desire in my life. This is what I've spent a lot of years doing, and it didn't work. Being angry on the internet, being like rah rah, feminist and women can do anything and all that. I spent a lot of time doing that and being in relationships, and it didn't feel good in my body. There's a balance there that I got to seek for myself and in relationship. And I feel so grateful that I have a partner that's willing to do the dance with me, because I definitely can hold a lot of the masculine energy. I run the company that provides for our family. Mm-hmm. So my husband left what he was doing to work with me. Mm-hmm. And so I essentially recreated a lot of the same dynamic that I did see growing up, only we're aware of it. And the way that, for him, he's like, "Ooh, cool, I'm going to date a sex coach." And at first it's like really cool. And then it's like, "Oh shit, I'm dating a sex coach. Like, she knows a lot of things. And is she critiquing me?" And it can be kind of intimidating.
See?
And when he hears me on stage, or he hears me in dynamics with my groups and when I'm teaching or coaching, at first it was like, "Oh shit." And now he's right in there with me, but it wasn't easy. We get to play an interesting dynamic now.
But you see, that was medicine for him too.
Oh yeah.
Because you know what? I just connected the dots. Is the little boy in him that needed to please and be accepted and so forth and so on. Yeah. Like, that don't work in bed. Men.
It depends on the dynamic, but one that we typically fall into, it doesn't work.
Do you know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah. It's like there's a very distinct role, and when a man can truly step into his masculine energy and a woman can truly step into her feminine, it's magic. Yeah. It's magic, Mm-hmm. And I love that. Kudos to him for being strong enough, right? Because it takes a real strong man to be able to step into that and not get all bent out of shape about it, but go into it and do the work necessary to be able to say, fuck yeah, I'm with a sex coach. Yeah. What does that say about me? Yeah. It says I'm a badass. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So kudos to him.
Yeah, it was challenging at first, and he'll be the first to say it. He was a yes and didn't really know what saying yes meant.
Right.
Because sexual development to me is equal personal development. It's a part of personal development, because that was how I even got into sex coaching, was that I found personal development in general, like the audiobooks and the different mindset work and meditation and yoga. And I found my way to all of that, and then realized that it wasn't really translating into my dating life, and wasn't really translating into sex and communication in that area. It was like, wow, I'm so empowered in all these other areas of my life. And then I'd get in a situation with a guy that I had some kind of sexual chemistry with, and I was all of a sudden 14 again. And I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I didn't know what I wanted. I would just kind of go with whatever they wanted, or it was like, okay, well, there's a inherent overlying, like, I guess we're saying yes to sex. And then all of a sudden all communication stops. Like, that's just kind of what seems to happen a lot of times. And for, in those kinds of situations. But yeah, when I realized that it didn't directly translate, then I double clicked and zoomed in on, so what's here for me if I actually look specifically at how I show up in sexual dynamic? What's here if I specifically open up what is available in relationships beyond what I was taught? Because I was just doing the things over and over again that I was taught, and it wasn't really working.
No, and beyond what your mind has, I like to use the word programmed.
Sure.
But
yeah,
what your mind has been exposed to,
right,
as what a relationship means,
exactly,
and why it is looking for one in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in my story, I can look back at the fact that, my father didn't know how to show love. Because he was abandoned as a little boy. Mm-hmm. And then my mother also didn't know how to express and show maternal love, because her mother passed away when she was 13 days old. Mm-hmm. So energetically, as their first child, like, I can picture myself now with these two people who, quite honestly, didn't know how to show love and experience love. So they probably didn't love each other and know what that felt like. And then you have this kid, which, as much as you want to, you just don't know how to do it, because no one ever showed it to you, right? Well, that led me to live a life of, I was always looking to be married, to have children, Mm-hmm. And so when I finally did get married, I found myself everything inside of me was telling me, you're doing this for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. But my brain was programmed to think, get married, because when you get married, you find love, and that's not the truth.
And you made it.
And and
you don't have to work anymore on yourself because someone chose you. You're just like, it stops here. At least that's what I see in people.
And then that's when the real work really begins.
Yeah.
Because you get to unravel. You get to unravel everything that caused you to be in that relationship. You get to decide if the person that got you into the relationship is the person that will stay in that relationship. You get to decide if you're going to help each other to heal, or you get to decide if it's unhealable, but it's work.
Yeah.
It's work,
Or if it's, in a sense, run its course, because I experience people in a lot of different stages in relationship. And sometimes they come to me or they enter our community, and sex is the symptom that is presenting itself. That whatever's going on in their sex life is the thing that they are attempting to work on. And so, there's not really a strategy, a position, a toy that I can recommend for them. So some people, they come to me and they want to work on the sex stuff, but we work on everything else in their lives that exists outside of the bedroom, in order to throw them in the bedroom and for them to have all those things happen very naturally and organically.
That's right.
And so, being a sex educator, because I've spent time as more on the sex education spectrum of what I do, and then now more in the helping people with their relationships and staying in connection. Or, some people will come to me and they're like, we want to rekindle, or we want to find the passion again, or we want to get back what we had. To me, it's not get back what you had. It's you're new people. You've gone through new cycles, new seasons. Things have happened in your life that have created the dynamic that you have now. How do we take those people and create something new with those people, not just get back what you had? Because that, to me, isn't really possible. There's more
That version
to
of you is
you.
gone. Right.
Yeah. And believe it or not, you don't know everything about your partner. Even if you've been with them 10 plus years, you don't know everything about them. And having this like overarching or this preconceived notion, this assumption, like I'm going to assume how my person's going to respond to a certain thing because they've done it. They've responded this way over and over again in the past. It doesn't create an environment. It's got a lot of criticism. President doesn't really create an environment where you can try new things. If it's, I'm going to present a new thing, but I already know how you're going to act. I already know how you're going to do this thing.
That's right.
So yeah, I see like wide ranging, but on the side closer to sex education, it's very prescriptive. It's, I'm having pain over here. I'm challenged by this, or we've been together 5 years and she's never had an orgasm, or he's having a hard time with, premature ejaculation. Then that's very prescriptive. It's like, okay, well, I can give you this list of things to do and you go do them. And then it equals a possible certain result. Otherwise we change the prescription. When we're talking about the holistic relationship that includes sex, it's way bigger than, a little to the left.
Because it's a mirror for what's going on inside of you.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
And in those most intimate moments, it is the biggest mirror. The biggest mirror for your truth, and for the parts of you that you've been afraid to address, or maybe are not even aware are there. So I got a question for you. Our listeners are listening right now. They're into this conversation and they want to know, I have an issue with sex. So let me bring up some basic issues and then let's just flow.
Great.
Right? You mentioned pain. I know for a lot of women, they experience a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Or maybe they don't get as wet as they need to, or they would like to. Talk to me about that.
Okay. I mean, that's like the sex educator hat I get to put on, which is,
let's do it.
The sex geek, which is fun. But I would have follow-up questions.
Okay.
So the question would be, is what kind of pain? Is it pain upon insertion? Is it pain during sex exclusively? Or is it pain even with insertion of a finger or a tampon or even a thin dilator?
Wow, like that.
So there's different kinds of pain. And at this point, I don't think anyone likes to hear, the phrase, it's all in your head, because it's real. The way trauma expresses in the body, it's real. And the mind-body connection is a real thing. So for someone who's experiencing pain, my recommendation to them, of course, if they were sitting in front of me, then I would ask them, what has been the buildup to experiencing the pain? Is the pain all the time? Was there a particular time when it came in? Is this because a lot of times with pain, and it's similar in a sense to premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction, where there's a stress that pain or that dysfunction is going to happen. And so there's this loop of, I have anxiety. And if I have anxiety, then it's going to cause the thing. If I have anxiety and I can't regulate myself and I'm breathing very shallow, then I don't have a lot of blood flow to go where I want it to go.
Thus causing the pain.
Thus causing the pain, or thus causing the dysfunction.
Right.
And so when it comes to vaginismus, and I pretty much always say this wrong, dyspareunia, but vaginismus, which is the pain upon insertion in the vagina.
Yeah, let's go there. Man, woman, you're about to have sex.
Yeah.
And man enters and you feel pain.
Pain. Yeah. So this is something to address outside of the bedroom. There's a sense of safety that needs to be created in the person's body in order to be able to soften and to be able to open up and to be able to get out of whatever the loop is inside of the mind, so that person can get into their body, so that they can experience sexual turn on, so that the pain will either be lessened or won't be there.
Right.
And so it's something that for women who do experience pain, then my recommendation would be to work on this on an individual level, with either a coach, a healer, a therapist, possibly a somatic experiencing practitioner that will work very slowly with the nervous system and the person's soma, right? So their body, because, everybody's different. And sometimes, trauma is trauma. Like if a person experienced something as a 7-year-old and it was this really big ordeal, but as an adult, you look at the kid and you're like, it was just a ...
Right.
But it doesn't matter. It affected them that way.
For
It's
sure.
stored in their body, and that plays a role into their adulthood until they start doing work with it. And so who knows, people have lots of different things that create trauma in their body that have them bear down, that have them feel unsafe. And so that pain is a protector, and the protector served them at some point. So amazing. Your body is so wise. It's protecting you from trauma or from some other kind of pain. But now you're an adult and you don't need that function anymore. So there's lots of different modalities someone who's experiencing that can try on and see which one's going to work for them, that's going to help them create safety inside of themselves and safety in their body.
So give me one.
One what?
One modality.
Oh, SEP, going to see a somatic experience practitioner.
And what is that exactly?
So it's someone who has been trained to work with the body and the nervous system, is very knowledgeable about the nervous system, and uses very, very light, soft touch on a person's body. So you're usually on a massage table, but they work with people over Zoom and stuff like that too. But they'll ask questions, and it's a way that someone can very gently go into some of the maybe traumatic experiences that they've experienced throughout their life, whether they are, some people use the term big T or little t for big trauma or little trauma. Doesn't matter to me. Trauma is trauma. It's having some kind of effect. But the somatic experiencing practitioner will hold space and knows the right kind of questions to ask, and how to put their hands on a person's body. And so, because this is something that is affecting the body, that pain, I would recommend that, checking in. SEPs are what they're called, and they're not available everywhere. So you might have to do that. Do research in online. EMDR is something that I've been very intrigued by recently, which is eye and movement desensitization. R means something. EMDR. Repatterning, I think. And it's a way to go into trauma and to be able to speak about, because the thing is some people will speak about something that has happened to them, like a really bad fight with an ex-wife. And it's like when you go in to tell the story, it's almost as if you're experiencing the fight. Or like sexual trauma, go to talk about the thing and it's almost like it's happening right then and there. So how do you put space between your emotional physiological response and the memory? So how can we create a dynamic where you speak about the thing that happened, but when you speak about it, you don't feel like it's actually happening all over again.
Right.
And how do you put enough space and awareness between the memory and, let's say, subconscious components to that memory that cause you to be triggered in the present? And so I know EMDR is something that's used for that as well. It's especially good with early childhood trauma. And so, there's certain kinds of people in the world that have a lot of what you just spoke about, like pain during sex. Certain religious groups have a high percentage of this, and a lot of times it's connected to shame. And so, for them, they're told you just have to get into your partnership and your marriage, and then in the marriage, then you have this beautiful thing that is sex.
Right.
However, they do all the things right and check all the boxes, and now they're in the marriage and they're terrified because they've been told their whole lives that don't do this thing, and it is the worst sin.
Right.
And now it's okay all of a sudden, and we're just supposed to forget that this was the worst thing that I could do yesterday, and now that I have a ring on my finger, it's okay.
Right.
And then sometimes what winds up happening is that they create pain because the body and the mind, they've been like, this is no.
That's right.
Yeah.
So powerful. So powerful.
Yeah, this is real. It's real stuff.
It is.
Yeah. Some people also use dilators, so I'll throw that out there too.
Okay.
Little tiny things that you insert and then they go up. And so they just show their body that they're safe.
Okay. Yeah. I want to throw out there yoni eggs.
Yeah. So when I say dilator, it's in the category too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know of several women who have used them, and they are powerful. They are powerful.
Yeah, they can be.
Like plant medicine powerful. Like it brings up a lot.
Yeah. There's some disclaimers for yoni eggs. And so if anyone who wants to practice with one, it's a crystal. They have small, medium, large. They can be drilled where they have like a little piece of floss, because a lot of people are like, how do you get them out? You can just pull it out, right? Yeah. You can't just like you can't get a tampon stuck in there forever.
Yeah.
Can't get a crystal stuck in there forever. But use like a coconut oil or a self-love oil, something that's not going to disrupt your pH. Put that in there. A lot of people think that the egg goes a small part up, flip it around from what you would think that how it goes in, and choose a stone that's not porous.
Yeah.
That's again the sex educator to me that's like, make sure you don't create a yeast infection in there.
Yeah. And I've also heard, like, for some women it's such a deep, profound experience that, like, have a guide or a coach there to be able to talk things through, or a very conscious man that has done the work that can hold the space for you to allow you to be able to share what is coming up for you.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yoni eggs are powerful, and the practices, and it's a practice, just like going into yoga or meditation. It's a practice. So it's not something that you just pop in, into your vaginal canal and you're like, okay, well, now I'll go to the grocery store while I'll do my yoni egg practice. Ideally, it's a self-love ritual that you experience with yourself, and you take the time to be with yourself and your emotions and whatever comes up for you. And so you can also use yoni eggs in a sense. You're working from large to small with the yoni eggs. And so, and it's, Kegels, so it's pulsing the perineum and the vaginal muscles. So it also can be great for people who've post-birth and they want to tighten those muscles up. So they have lots of functions.
I don't want to get into details, but the yoni eggs work. The yoni eggs work. Yeah, they're really good. Yeah. Everyone's like, I got good news and bad news. The good news is Awaken is sold out. The bad news is if you didn't get your ticket, my heart is broken that you're not coming. But listen, I've got more good news. I want you to go right now to DannyMorel.com/awaken and sign up to be notified, because we are about to release the dates for the next Awaken. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to want to be a part of this list. I'm going to give you guys like a one-time offer the very first weekend that we announce it, that you have to take advantage of, and it's going to sell out again based off of all the messages we're getting right now. So go to DannyMorel.com/awaken. And if you're coming, I'll see you there. If not, I'll see you at the next one. I will say something. You said something along the lines of being with yourself. And I remember when I was, I don't want to say not conscious, but I hadn't done the work.
Yeah.
I went to church every Sunday. I followed the rules in the book. And
I went through that too.
Yeah.
I did that too.
Yeah. And then, you know what that means, to really just be with yourself. And I say that because I go live with people on Friday, every Friday morning at 9 on my Instagram. And some of the most beautiful one-on-ones that I've had with people are with people who, quite honestly, don't know what it's like to sit with themselves. I ask them to close their eyes and meditate, and their eyes are popping all over the place, and they can't sit still.
Yeah.
And I help them to just let go, and tears start coming out. It's a beautiful experience. And
imagine trying to have sex with someone that's
can you? It's not happening.
Like they can't get in their,
they can't
get in their body.
They can't get in their, right.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Premature ejaculation.
Okay. Well, that's another one. Anxiety a lot of times. And it's a kind of a vicious loop that winds up happening. So depending on this, I won't say the start or necessarily the source of when it happened or when it started to happen. If it's, I'll put it kind of this way. So when I learned to, which this is not premature ejaculation, but I know that this story will resonate for some people. When I originally learned that if I touched myself, it equaled a feel-good feeling, that then eventually I realized, oh, that is an orgasm. As a kid, I think, oh, this just feels good. And so only when I started to go to Catholic school did I realize that this really awesome feel-good thing that I was doing was a sin.
It's bad.
It's bad.
Right.
Like all of a sudden is the worst thing that I could have been doing.
Right.
And so I would grapple with, I'm going to be good now. I'm going to be so good. I'm not going to do it. And then
it feels so good though.
Right. Because I've, a young preteen, figuring it out. And so try as I might not to, I still would do it every now and then. And when I would do it, I would have to do it so fast. and so quiet and make sure that no one, even the energy didn't ripple out. Like no one could feel that this was happening or know that this was happening. And so I learned how to do it very fast, how to bear down, like make it happen very locally so that it wouldn't happen big.
Force it, like.
Yeah, really fast.
Right.
And so I feel as though some young men wind up getting into that loop as well. They have to get it done fast. And then sometimes they get really into like the intensity of it. And so really beautiful, delicious sex can feel, like you eke it out, it's edging. And so you come up against the edge and then you back off, and you come up against the edge of orgasm and you back off. And so, that there's a place for all of it. The fast quickie and like the just quick rub one out or like jerk one out, like there's a place for that. But if that's what's happening every time you show up,
there's an issue.
Then it's something you can work on. You know,
I vividly remember. I was at camp. Like,
you could have been like, I was at ... and everyone would have gone, camp.
Yeah, camp. I was at camp, and it was like Christian camp. And I remember
it's the best kind.
Yeah, I remember, or the worst kind. But I remember at the time, I remember like Pastor Danny, God bless him, I love him. But I looked up to him so much, and I still love him, obviously. But I remember it was like a group of us guys. We were like 19, 20 years old, and by that time you're full on like raging hormones. You know, I mean, like, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there's everything wrong with that when you're in religion. Everything. And I remember, one of the questions that was asked by one of the other guys, they asked this question to Pastor Danny. He said, so, hey, Pastor Danny, so do you like jack off? Like, or, whatever? And I remember his answer, and it was something like, no, a godly man doesn't do that, or something like that. And I was like, in that moment, I was like, I jack off all the fucking time.
Right.
Like, what do you?
Right. This
my God.
If anyone wants an example of sexual shame.
Yeah, that's it right there.
That was it right there.
That's it right there. And then and I'm just gonna I'm gonna be vulnerable, and I'm just gonna share, because part of what I want my life to be about is just to share from my experiences, so that hopefully other people can realize like we're all the same, we're all one, we're all on this beautiful journey. But everything you just said, that was my life.
Yeah.
That was my life for a long time, until I started doing all of my work, and I started literally releasing all the shame and all the guilt around this subject that quite honestly, that religion, instilled in me.
Yeah.
Now sex is delicious.
Yeah.
It's 3, 4, 5 hours, and it's exploring, and it's beautiful. And recently I had something experience so beautiful, which I had never had in my life, which I'm going to ask you about it.
Okay, great.
I had a laughing orgasm.
Oh, amazing.
I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Like a giggle fit?
No, it wasn't giggle. It was like
full on laughing.
It was like at the top of my lungs, just expressing laughter without a physical release, by the way.
Yeah.
Like that was the release.
Yeah.
And it was just from being in so much joy and bliss and connection. It was beautiful. Beautiful. And I just want our listeners to know, like, sex is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's the thing that created us.
Yeah. And there's a lot more to it.
There is.
There's so much more to it. And so some people might be listening in here 3-4 hours and go, I don't have that fucking time. I don't have time to do that. Like, I'm lucky if I get a shower to myself. So like, good for you, Danny. 3 or 4 hours, you get it. Great quickie sex is awesome too. And so basically like what I want to illustrate is that you get to have it all.
That's right.
It's not one or the other. And you can wherever you're at, it only goes up from here. Like wherever you're at, it still only goes up from here. There's still so much to explore. And because just when, I think some people think they've got it figured out, this is as high as it goes right now, some new shit happens in their life that breaks them down, that inspires their next up level, grief, love, expansion, whatever it is, that leads them to a next part of who they are, that then puts the ceiling even higher. And so there's always something more, something bigger and something better. And for some people that can be really overwhelming. and just take it back a notch and breathe and just be where you are right now and take an honest stock of your life and take an honest stock of your sex life and ask, like, am I happy here? Am I fulfilled? Maybe not even just happy. Am I fulfilled? Because not all sexual scenarios that I go into, I'm like, oh, I'm so really happy about this. Some of them are just some of them are, well, I mean, we're in the process of starting our family. And so some of them have like a transactional quality to them. I'm like, I need you here now.
At this time, on this
now.
day. Yeah.
You know? And so it's just, there's such a wide variety of what's available and accessible. So just ask yourself, right?
But isn't it just a beautiful representation of life?
Yes.
Because there's such a wide variety of what's available for us in life, you know?
Yeah. So you asked me about premature ejaculation and we wind up going off on this tangent. And so for those of you who are still hanging on the cliff, like, what do I do? I come too quickly. What do I do? She never said it. Yeah. Breathe is my main thing. And on my show, so I have a podcast called That Sex Chick, and I had a lady named Caitlin V, which I don't know if you do shows that are via Zoom or anything like that, but she was amazing and she specializes in helping people with premature ejaculation and erectile dysfunction, and then going into prostate play and all of that stuff. But some things that I learned in my work with her and speaking with her, that a lot of it is anxiety induced. And so if you can focus on creating peace inside of your body and detaching from some of the habits that lead you to coming in your mind too quickly, or according to maybe your partner, you came too quickly. So and also working with your partner on making sure to the degree that they can not shame or blame or make wrong. And also, if you have a lot on your sexual, smorgasbord available, or like you're in your sexual tool belt, then you're not only relying on the hard penis to either come or not come, stay hard or not stay hard. You're not only relying on this tool for the whole experience. So if you have more things at your disposal, which means expanding on your, I was going to say sexual intelligence.
So you're talking from the woman's perspective.
Both.
Gotcha.
Both. So
I would say for the men, I would say number one is, first off, make sure when you're ready to heal this, make sure that you're in a loving relationship. Because when you're in a loving relationship, it allows for the space for open communication.
Yeah.
And when there's open communication and dialogue, then there is no shame, right? Number two, have the courage. Have the courage to say, if this is an issue for you, have the courage to say and say, look, this is a thing for me. I'm ready to work through it. I've never felt safe or comfortable enough to work through it. Are you down to work through it with me?
Yeah.
And when someone loves you, they'll be like, of course, baby. Like, of course,
Right.
And then number three, know that you can control it. Know that you can control it, because that's the other thing. I think that it's a real part of your masculine growth. Right? Because when it comes to your mind, it can be filled with anxiety and making it feel like it can be programmed to feel like this thing is bad, and as a result, like you have anxiety and pressure and all this stuff around it. But at the same time, it can be unprogrammed.
Yes.
It can be unprogrammed.
Absolutely.
And you have the power to do that, as a man, right? When you feel that is about to happen, you just take a deep breath, you clench, and you just kind of hold down, bear down.
He gets it.
Yeah, you clench in your anus right there. And you just breathe through it, and then you just
think about your grandma. Sing the Star Spangled Banner.
That's right. Do something. Count sheep. Do something. But then you go back again. Yeah. And then what you'll find that will happen is that after the third or fourth time, you're programming your body to think, oh, it's not time for this. And I'm in control now.
Right. Because a lot of times those people, if you ask them about their masturbation, which masturbation is a term that means to defile. So I think back in like religion, where it's like, have you been defiling yourself recently? Like you go in and it's been X amount of days since my last confession and I defiled. Like it's even the language that's around sex and expression is tough.
One of these days, I'm just going to tell the truth about religion. I just feel so bad.
Boy. Well, we kind of are.
We are. We're saying it without actually saying it.
Yeah. But. So
But it's your journey. And you
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, those masturbation habits, if they are very intense and very quick, that's also a place for people who experience premature ejaculation to undo that process as well. If you always look at the same kind of porn, you fast forward to the money shot, you get it out nice and quick. Like that is for a lot of people a form of stress relief. And so if your body has created patterns that this is how we stress relief, and then you get into, a real life situation, your body's like, oh, we know how to do this.
Right.
This is great. Wow, we feel better. And then, you're on top of the woman that's like, what just happened?
Yeah.
What just happened? Wait, hang on a minute. And one thing that I can tell you is not going to work, thinking that you'll figure it out the next time and not doing anything about it. Getting into the situation and being nervous and going, I think I'm going to have control this time. And then that winds up creating even more shame or pressure.
So
for both
work on
parties
it with yourself.
Yeah.
And know that there's nothing wrong with this. It's your body.
Yeah.
It's you expressing and feeling and touching yourself. There is absolutely, I don't care what preacher, what pastor, what teacher, what anyone has ever told you that there is anything wrong with you exploring your body or you being in relationship physically with another human being and their body is wrong. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the very thing that created you and creates life, period, end of story.
Yep. Snaps.
Make that a clip.
Great. You did great.
the pastors are not going to like me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But yeah. Some of this stuff gets so built up inside of me because, it's like, gosh, I look back on so many years of my life that I was so brainwashed to think this certain way. And then one day you wake up and you realize it, and it's like, you just want to help other people.
Yeah.
Because life's so beautiful.
1,000%. 1,000%.
Life's so beautiful. So we went over pain. We went over premature ejaculation. What about the opposite? What about not being able to orgasm, or maybe only being able to orgasm with the use of a tool or something like that? What about that?
You're talking about for female?
Yeah, for a female.
Yeah. So
I'm like going back and forth.
Yeah, which is great. There can be a wide variety of things for a woman who hasn't experienced an orgasm. And if you question, I don't know, maybe I have, maybe I haven't, you probably have not. Because I think for most people, if they've experienced a clitoral induced orgasm where, just rubbing on the outside of the vulva, under the little nub that's there, that's the glands, the head of the clitoris, which is very similar. It's the female structure of the tip of the penis. Lots of nerve endings are there. And so most people would describe it as, you would know. If you're questioning if you've had it or not, you would know. Because typically how that is described is that it's a really intense buildup and then fireworks, like a rocket going off, where it just like quickly throws you out into intensity and sensation, and for a lot of people, pleasure. Because I won't say that everyone experiences a lot of pleasure when they orgasm. Some people are challenged, with orgasm not really feeling very good, depending on how it's induced. And then you quickly come back into your body. And so that's a way to orgasm. But now we know that there's all kinds of ways you can play with building up to orgasm. And so people who wind up coming in our community, they're like, hey, I'm challenged by this thing, or they really love their partner, they have great sex, but she never orgasms. The place we start is the story that they have around sex, how they feel about receiving pleasure in general, and how much have they explored their body on their own. Because it's really difficult to tell someone, here I am and I don't come with an instruction manual. Please me. Do this thing that, press these knobs and buttons, that we don't come with an instruction manual. And so someone who has a hard time communicating that, generally it's because they haven't experienced it for themselves. They haven't touched themselves and gone, haven't touched themselves with awareness and intention. Sometimes people will go into touching themselves or doing things and they're not really paying attention to what they're doing. They're just doing it and moving on. So to touch yourself, to see what feels good. And then some people are challenged by, I can come by myself, I can't come with a partner. So there's lots of different things. If you take, let's now go into being with yourself, being intentional, taking note. Maybe you even have a notebook and you're like, I like it like this, and then I like this, and then I like this. So that's a way that you can bring more intention and more language so that when you're working with your partner, you can either show them directly or you can verbalize it, because so many people are challenged by even just saying it. And slowing everything down. I think a lot of people start moving around too fast. We see what's the images on in the movies and on TV is that they lock eyes and they all of a sudden, like, there's the sex. That's the look. And then they lunge in for a passionate kiss where they're breathing all heavy, and all of a sudden they start ripping clothes off. And I'm like, I had a lot of sex in my life, and none of them were like that. I don't think. There was a few that were like hot and heavy, but none of them were like this like kind of primal sexual thing. Yeah. And it's just like all of a sudden, then they cut to doing it, and then they cut to cuddling after. That all happened in the span of like 15 to 30 seconds. Yeah. You know what I mean? And even porn a lot of times moves from A to B to C pretty quickly. So all these representations of and examples of sex is really fast. And so I think if I could have so many people, not everybody needs to slow down. Some people might need to just like pick up the pace a little bit, but for a lot of people, slow everything down and take the pressure off. This doesn't need to happen very fast. And so a lot of women also will experience shame around how long it takes them to come. The partner's like, can we just get on with it? Well, that's not how this comes to fruition, in more ways than one. So slowing everything down, having Jordan and I like to do something, he calls it sexploration. One of our friends who's a sex educator calls it, I think it's play space or playtime, something like that, where we're going into a sexual environment, but we're not trying to be all that sexy. We're literally just going to figure something out. So I have a new toy, or there's a thing that we want to overcome, but we want to, or he calls it sex lab, where you go in and I want to learn. So we're agreeing to learn. So I have my hat on where I want to learn the thing, and I want you to teach me about your body. Or we're going to play with the toy and then figure out how it works. We don't just purchase a new thing and then go, oh my gosh, I'm a pro. Even Jordan and I, one time I came home from some trip and he had a sex swing that you hang over the door. And I go, in your mind, you thought this was super hot. Yeah. Like you looked at like the picture on the box and you were like, yeah, it's going to be so good. And I was like, okay, first off, with all our clothes, let's see how this functions. Like, let's see how this works. Logistically, right? And so we're in the clothes, I'm doing the thing, and he's positioning, and he's like tugging on everything. And then he just looks down at me and he's like, I think I'm getting a little turned on. I'm like, yeah. So then we get off of the swing and we go do normal sex, because that's how we know how to play and turn, that's how we know what to do there. Right. So a lot of times it's go and figure something out and not have the requirement be, we all have to have orgasms and it's got to be this sexy thing. And so I think a lot of people put this pressure on that if they're showing up for sex, that it's got to be this, super hot and passionate, everybody's got to come, all this stuff. So, creating more I wish more people would create environments where they could just slow all the things down and take even sometimes having the orgasm off the table. Because if you take the pressure off, sometimes it actually happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I just have to say, I'm getting a swing.
Yeah.
I just got visuals of my woman in a swing, and I'm getting a swing.
Yeah.
This is good. Yeah. This is good.
Yeah. I hope just
Casper's laughing over here.
She's going to be like, what am I going to do with this?
I want to see those legs. I want to see those legs on a swing. Trust me.
Yeah. That's awesome. My husband and I, I get sent all kinds of stuff, all kinds of products and things, and he just looks at the things and he's like, what do we do with that? And I'm like, I don't know, babe. I'm just going to put it in the closet for now. And then every now and then, I'm like, here's all the things we have, the toys, which are implements. They're called toys for a reason. They're meant to play with, right? So that inspires the almost childlike innocence of play and curiosity and imagination, which I'm so busy running my business and my shows and doing these things for my family and for my life that I lose my sense of play.
And I think that that's another thing that I want to discuss with you is, for so many of us, we're so busy. The man is busy, the woman is busy, that we forget to give ourselves the time and create the space for beautiful sex, you know? And it's like, again, like you said, there's such a wide range, but every once in a while, throw on a playlist, you know, a little tantra playlist on Spotify or something, and light some candles up and get some oils out and kiss and rub some feet and lick some body parts and shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, take your time with it. And guys, I'm going to challenge you with this, like, lead.
Yeah.
Like, lead, because that's how you're in your masculine, right? And let her just enjoy it and lay there and watch what happens to the dynamic of that when she feels led in that scenario. It creates something very, very beautiful. When all you're thinking about is the orgasm.
Yeah.
Then it just becomes like a goal, a goal, an outcome, a transaction, right? Versus an experience.
Yeah, I met a lot of men. I mean, I've polled my community before and asked the men, specifically men with female partners, how do you feel when, you know, your partner doesn't have an orgasm? And there's this long list of men saying defeated. I don't stop until she does. I feel less of a man. All these things, and I go, I'm just going to use these things to show you you're not making this about her. You're making this about you achieving something.
That's right.
I don't stop until she comes. Well, what if she's satiated? You know, I've met so many women that are like, I don't even need to come. By the time I feel good in my body and I've had a really enjoyable experience, I don't actually want to have an orgasm every time. But for some reason, the guy that they're with will take it personally if they don't. And that's an ego thing. That's not even on her.
Yeah, men are outcome oriented.
Yeah.
They want the outcome. They want the target, the goal, the achievement. And especially for your A-type driver man, forget about it. Like, that's how he is in his outside world. He's definitely going to be like that in his intimate world.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Final thoughts. It can be healed.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Also take responsibility. That's my favorite one. Take responsibility. So if your sex is not where you know it can be, or you hear other people in your world or on the internet share about what their sex life is like, and you think, well, good for them.
Yeah.
Reconsider, because there's so much that's available, and it's up to you to take responsibility to do the work that is required in order to get there if you choose that path. I'm one of those types of people, and I'm sure you are, and a lot of your listeners too, where I'm not okay with being okay that it like a thing is just normal. I'm looking for optimal. I'm looking for way beyond the line of mediocrity. I'm looking for exceptional, and even if that means parts of me have to fall apart and burn and be so uncomfortable so that I can get through to the other side to have even more bigger, deeper, you know, I am personally willing to do that. I'm willing to fall apart over and over and over again for the sake of, you know, my expression and authenticity and living a life that feels so good to me.
Yeah.
And so, and that is the take responsibility note. So for those of you that, you know, you consider where you're at in your sex life, and maybe it's good, but it can be so much better. Maybe there's something in this conversation that inspired you, then it's take responsibility. So it's listen to more podcasts about this subject. Read, you know, read the books or listen to the audio books. Do courses. Like, you're going to get out what you put in. And so your relationship with your significant other or your soon to be significant other, it's worth it, because in the long run, you know, I experience, especially in my groups of other entrepreneurs, they'll put money towards all these things that they can get written out. You know, it's on a guaranteed ROI. You know, I'm going to give money to a business coach because I think it's going to do this thing for my business, and that's good for my family. However, what about the quality of the relationships? Because that's what's going to matter in the end. So some people have a really hard time putting money there because they don't know what the ROI is going to be. The ROI is going to be, you have amazing sex, sure, but you're able to feel so much deeper, and you're able to connect with your partner in ways that you never thought were possible. And that depth, your ability to create magic using life force energy, is going to propel you even further in all the other categories of your life, which we didn't talk about.
Even money, even health, and everything.
Yes,
Absolutely.
everything. So it's the take responsibility part. take a step in the direction of your desires.
Yeah. And I would say allow allow yourself to let go. Because one of the things that you just mentioned brought up a scenario where I was literally driving up here, about to film with you. And there was something that I was feeling inside of myself that I didn't feel like communicated properly enough with Jen. And I called her and I said, hey, I just want you to know. And she was like, you know what? Thank you so much. But you see, that shows up in your intimate relationship because it's vulnerability. And for us guys, sometimes we are so proud, and women too, so proud at the way we do things and the way we are. Allow yourself to let go, like I never in my life would have ever thought that I would have ever had a swing. I'm buying a swing.
There you go.
I'm buying a swing because I heard that a swing was available and I want the best and I'm going to get it. You could have said, get a whip. You could have said, get some chains, some handcuffs.
Oh, I mean, I've got some other ones that I can give to you that are better choices than the swing.
Okay, so I'm going to put an order in is what I'm going to do.
There you go.
But it's like allow yourself to have fun and allow yourself to desire and demand of yourself that this is your life and that, damn it, you get to experience the best version of it possible. Because when you're that way, it's only going to get better, like you said. It's only going to get better. So I got a question for you.
Okay.
Next year in March, I believe it's going to be March 24th, 25th, 26th. I have for my inner circle, which is my mastermind, I'm putting together, we do 4 workshops a year for them. And that one is going to be all about relationships. Amazing. I want you to come.
Oh,
are you in?
Of course.
Yeah? Okay, good.
I mean, let me double check, but yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. I think this is a conversation that I want to dive deep in with them.
Yeah.
And that's my family. So I want them to grow.
1,000%. And there's so much more. There's so much more. I mean, even in this conversation, which I love the direction that we went and all the different topics and things that we touched on. And like, I know that we're coming towards the end and I'm like, wow, there's still, and this is just sex in general. It's just scratching the surface.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just scratching the surface.
Yeah. Awesome.
But thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
How do they get a hold of you?
That Sex Chick.
That Sex Chick. On Instagram or everywhere? On
Instagram. Yeah. That Sex Chick is Instagram. And that's the best. That's our biggest social media platform. And so you can see on my Instagram, in the link in bio, there's all kinds of fun things. We have a list for people who are feeling a little uninspired and aren't really sure what else they want to have as components in their sex life. We have a want, will, won't list. That's free. That's our best resource that we have, and it's there, so you can just download it. And it's over 300 questions that are asking you, do you want it? Will you do it? Are you an absolute no hard boundary? And it is so fun to do on a date night.
Beautiful.
And so I always encourage people, grab a glass of wine, schedule a couple hours out, print out the want, will, won't list, and just have a really dynamic conversation with your partner. And make sure to check expectations and assumptions at the door, because if you have it in front of you, then you might be surprised with the person that you've been dating or married to for a long time is going to go, oh yeah, I could want that.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, hang on. How have I not known you actually wanted that this whole time? And so it's an opportunity to celebrate each other and your erotic preferences. So if I could give anyone some homework, go do that. Find me on Instagram, get your list and go through that and shoot me a message. Let me know what came up for you.
Beautiful. I'm doing that list.
Great.
I'm going to have fun with it. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And this week, wow, this was a great episode.
Yeah.
I think I want to have a part 2.
Yeah.
I think there's more to explore here. Definitely.
You asked me 3 questions. I promise there's more.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So that's it for this week's episode of The Higher Self. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And truly, allow yourself to take all of life to the next level. And when you do in this particular area, in your intimate level, you will find that it will have a massive impact on your finances, your health, your spiritual connection, on everything. So we'll see you next week with another episode of The Higher Self. Thanks for watching or listening. If this week's episode resonated with you deeply and you're ready to discover more about yourself, go to DannyMorel.com and check out some of our upcoming events and our resources. Or if you'd like to learn more about our coaching programs, simply shoot us a message on Instagram and one of our team members will reach out to you immediately.